If you want to be recognized but don't want to reveal your identity, you can use a pseudonym. A pseudonym is something that points to you without actually telling who you are. So let's have a look at how this can be implemented. This guy is wearing a mask, and you don't know who he is, but you will be able to recognize him if he wears the same mask next time you see him. This is a very old technology, and I will give you an example from Africa, where you can see here a party. This is in Congo, 1909, and there's a huge party going on here, and you have the medicine men pseudonymized by their masks, and you have the rest of the gang there, and you can know perfectly well, hey, these are my friends, because you recognize them as persons. You can also recognize that the medicine men are there, or the shamans are there, because they're wearing the correct masks, but you don't know who of the medicine men are actually, joining the party this time, but it's important that there is a medicine man. So they are wearing masks because they have a certain position or certain qualities that has to be present there, and then you have the rest of the people who just themselves. We can do this digitally, and this is very elegant, but a bit more non-intuitive than what you just saw in the pictures. Using identity federations, we may actually make service-specific pseudonyms for all users. So let's have a look at this. You have on the right-hand side the institution or the identity provider, which keeps information about you as a user. And then we have on the left-hand side the services, and the services, they will need to be able to recognize you, but we don't want to tell them who you are. So every time you come back, they want to recognize you and say, hey, last time you did this, and you can probably reuse some of that information if you like, or you may not do it, but anyway, the services will be able to recognize you. One important aspect here is that services should not be able to data mine across. So we have to make one pseudonym for you as a user going to service X and a different one going to service Y. They are the same each time you go to the services, but actually they're different, so the services cannot compare user databases. Now in the middle here you have wayf, the Danish Federation, which keeps a secret formula. So now we take information about you, where you want to go to and where you came from, the institution here, and then we do something magical with it, with a secret formula. And here at the bottom you see an example of such a pseudonym. This is actually me going to one of these services, and the service can receive it, look at it, look in his database and say, hey, I recognize this user. And that's the whole point, being recognized without being identified, because nobody can actually deduct my identity from this pseudonym. Now, a pseudonym is not anonymous. There's a big important difference here, and that is that you can actually be tracked. We may be able, or we are able to find out who the person is based on the pseudonym, the formula, and the input data that we started off with, which is actually telling something about you as a person, identifiable information. But the service only has the pseudonym, it does not have the formula, and it does not have the input data. The federation in the middle wave here has the formula, but it does not keep the result, because it never keeps or stores anything. So the service comes along and says, who is this user? And we say, we don't know. We only have the formula. But we may go to the institution and run through with this secret formula all data for all users, and when we find a match, we can tell who the person was. We can identify the person. So it takes three parties to do this trick: the service with the result with the pseudonym, the secret formula, and the input data at the identity provider. This is a very secure setup. Usually in full meshed federations, which are different from in the way that they don't have a central federating component, the identity provider issues the pseudonym, so that can be made a direct link. If you have the result, you can actually find out very quickly. This setup is more secure because we have to get together, and these have to be very important matters, for instance a criminal charge or something like that, before we start off this operation. So pseudonyms are practical. You may be recognized without being identified, but you should not keep the idea in your mind that you can do anything illegal and not be tracked, because that's actually one of the points here. You are not anonymous, you are operating under a pseudonym.